Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Pedal Shift Project. The Pedal Shift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/302 and email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109 and check Pedal Shift out on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 302nd edition of the Pedal Shift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining on this edition, Day 4 of the Empire State Trail. Hell Day. I at least proclaimed it to be that on several occasions. Day 4, suggested to be a true test of wills on the Empire State Trail. Not only was this a longer than usual mileage day through central New York, but heavy rains made for a race to Syracuse and beyond. Would I need to rely on a fast forward, or could I bang out the miles to my hotel oasis on the other side?
Good morning. On Hell Day, Day 4. Will it be Hell Day, though? So it's a beautiful morning. We had some rain last night. But as the old saying goes, red sky in morning, sailors take warning. I am not a sailor, but I guess I kind of am. Because my ship is leaving port right now from the Savannah area, Rivers Crossing Campground and Marina, or Marina and Campground, which was delightful, but the mosquitoes are here. We are next to the Montezuma National Wildlife Refuge. Montezuma National Wildlife Refuge is basically a big swamp. It is sometimes referred to as the swamp. It was also my marker when riding on the New York State Thruway between my hometown and college at Syracuse University that I was about halfway there. So, if we do the math, believe it or not, Syracuse University will also mark my halfway point to the end of my 70-mile day today. Now, hopefully it will be 70 miles and not any bonus miles like we got yesterday for me and last week for you. I feel about as good as I can right now. I got up a little bit earlier. I slept pretty well, not as well as I did the first night camping in Brockport. Certainly not as good as I slept in the bed the other two nights, but that's to be expected. The new camping pad is barely passable. I bought it rather quickly on Amazon just because that was my best option for what I had, and it's much thinner, and I am a side sleeper, and so my hip bone makes contact with the ground frequently, which is no bueno. So I think I will very likely be moving on from it and trying to find some other use for this, maybe just giving it away or something along those lines. In any event, though, it will do just fine, I think, for this particular trip. So, weather update, which, again, this is a weather podcast and a food podcast with some occasional biking mixed in. Weather forecast is good for the morning. I am going to be, and I'm huffing and puffing because there's a climb out of the campground here because, of course, I may not see rain until for up to 3 or 4 hours, which would be fantastic. That could be halfway. That said, I am wearing just my rain pants as my pants for this because it's still pretty warm out, unfortunately. It will cool down later. Whew, that's a climb. We may take a break here. More steep hills. We shouldn't have too many of those today. We do have some hills, but those will probably be in the rain because later today, as the red sky in the morning forecasts and actual meteorological technology forecasts we're going to get some soaking rains. Whew. But the good news was, although it rained last night, my tent was not terribly wet. So that was good. It still went in the bag. I did not wait for sun. Sunrise is in about 10 minutes, but there's plenty of twilight light. It's as good as a cloudy day at this point. I do have my rear flasher on. So rain gear is ready. I've packed everything away as if I'm going to be getting some rain. So I'm not worrying too much about, that hill took a lot out of me. I packed everything away that was electronic that isn't built for this kind of stuff. My phone is water resistant. So I think I'm just going to leave it out for this and hope for the best, right? It is submersible, so I would think that grabbing some rain shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now, using it in the rain, as you all know, is probably a real hassle. But we'll see how it goes. That way, I just don't have to have anything in my pockets or anything like that. I could move it to the interior pocket of my rain jacket. It does have a pocket that's specifically built for that, so we could conceivably do that too. Let's see. Yeah, my goal right now is to get to Weedsport, as I mentioned on the last episode. And there's a place where I can grab coffee and maybe some breakfast sandwiches. So I want to do that as a relatively brief break. I was originally hoping to do a little bit longer break there. Now I'd like it to be as quick as possible, just because I want to get as many miles as I can reasonably before the rain comes, knowing that the trails are going to be muddier. I got about half of my miles on towpath trails, and that I think is actually going to be the biggest challenge of the day. After a little rain like we got last night, they'll get a little bit on the muddy side. I don't mind mud, but what it does is, of course, slows me down. So what I might do is, for the early parts here, I may stay on New York Route 31, which is bicycle Route 5, and stay on pavement for as much as I can. Later, Route 31 ends in Weedsport, as best I can tell. And so that means that I am... Ooh, a skunk. Ooh, a skunk. I'm going to take the lane so as to be far, far away from any skunk. He ran well into the bushes, but talk about a trip ruiner. My goodness. So yes, Route 31, I'll be joining reasonably quickly, and I'll stick on that as much as I can, if not all the way to my first stop. And that would mean that, again, I'll do those 12 miles or so in under an hour. So it's just, finding ways to make the ride energetically easier and faster. All just kind of improves my capability to bang these out. I know for many of you, 70 miles is probably in your wheelhouse. Maybe is an average day for you. For me, it's a long day. I've done them before. I've done more than 70 before, but they tend to be under better conditions, more ideal conditions actually than this. But I'm excited to complete this if I can, because this day is the real key to making the rest of the week work from a timing perspective, and to make it so that there aren't longer days elsewhere. I also have a hotel reservation tonight. I think I've mentioned that a few times. And that hotel can be canceled up to 6 p.m. today. So I have a few wiggle room bailout options. I've got a fast forward option that I really would only want to pull out. Not in case, well, it's certainly in case of emergency. That's what it's there for. But I do think that my ideal is to make this happen. So, hopefully less drama than yesterday. Hopefully a smooth ride with minimal challenges. I've got some fun baked in here because if I can bang these miles out, I might get to the university right before it's raining, or maybe when it's only lightly raining, so I can kind of take it down a notch, just like kind of pedal around a little bit. But we're just going to kind of have to see how that comes. All right, that is your morning edition. More to come. From Port Byron, New York, about an hour in, a little less than 10 miles of total riding. A lot of hills that slowed me down. And this is the section where I said I was going to stay on 31 and not get back on the towpath. But I chose to get on the towpath because traffic's getting a little thicker. It's a Monday morning, so I think folks are going to work around now. And I also thought, hey, let me see what it looks like. I can always hop off of it. It's pretty firm, despite the rain last night. We are getting some sun this morning, so I think that this was the right call. I'm seeing a few errant drops. There was something in my rain app. By the way, Dark Sky is the app that I use, and it is finally going under at the end of the year. It was purchased by Apple, so the API, all the data and good stuff that was part of it is going to be in the Apple weather app. But I think I'm not sure if they do the same kind of like, hey, rain's coming in 15 minutes kind of a thing. I'll have to go back on that and check. Anyways, Dark Sky was starting to tell me that we might get a little bit of rain, very light rain here. That's not the big soaker that's coming later this afternoon, or later this morning, I should say. So yeah, still dry for the moment. Still making good time, relatively speaking. I think ideally I would love to get as many miles under my belt, up to 30 if I can, and then take a break while the rain starts and get maybe a meal in. So I'll be kind of keeping my eye out for all of that. So, stay reasonably dry for this first chunk, take advantage of a break, and then just be like, all right, it's rain riding for the rest of the day. One thing that I'm realizing is because I left so early, despite the fact that this is a longer day, mileage-wise, time is very much on my side. In fact, I don't want to go too fast. If everything goes right, 5, I could conceivably, with no breaks, be there as early as 2 p.m., which would be an hour too early for my hotel room. Now, I don't expect that because I do very much want to take some breaks, longer ones, not unlike yesterday. I think I may do it a little different than yesterday, where I kind of focus on maybe recharging some devices, find a place to sit down. Yesterday was about cooling off. Today is about drying off, getting comfortable, and making sure that I'm ready for the assault at the end. I think that it's going to be reasonably flat for a good chunk of the next, through Syracuse at least, or into Syracuse. My decision to go up to campus may not feel so hot because the campus is the hill. It is literally on a hill, visible from downtown. But yeah, I'll have to go up a little bit of a hill. But I have to climb that hill or a hill or get to that elevation at some point anyways. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. And, I think it would be a nice little reward in the middle of the day to go see the old campus. I'll be rolling by a few places that are dear to me, and I think I may take a 1-block detour to see my old apartment, if I can remember the actual address, which I'm not sure I can. But in any event, that will be later. For now, like I said, I'm seeing some drops, but it's sun showers at this point, so I don't think, my sweat is making me plenty damp at this point, so a little extra from spitting won't be that big of a deal. from Weedsport, New York, and getting on to Route 31 again, my friend, and New York State Bike Route 5. I had a very charmed stop at the Dunkin' Donuts, which was my plan. About 13 miles into my 70, I was able to get 2 breakfast sandwiches. I was able to eat one of them. And then I also drank an enormous iced coffee, which was pretty decent. Continuing the bagel challenge, hold your thoughts on the Newark bagel. I have not eaten that yet. But Weedsport Dunkin' Donuts, bottom of the list. Absolutely. My dude. Almost got hit by a guy. He kind of smiles and waves it off. Wow. Amazing. I'm glad you heard that. I feel like that was a good reaction. My dude. All right. Okay, so choice here is to get on the trail and avoid dudes like that, or continue on 31. I'm going to continue on 31 despite that interaction. That was a remarkable. That might have been the worst thing I've ever encountered. All right, the reason why I'm going to stay on 31, I got my lights on, and the reason why that was a magical stop is we got a shower. I had mentioned that was going to happen, but I encountered none of it. And so I've got 2 hours of dry riding. And so not only did I get a chance to charge up my battery, my phone, quite a bit, which was great. Got a meal, got a little bit of a refreshing break. You know, I missed out on the early rain that was in the forecast. So, magical stop. Fantastic. And 31 has a nice big wide shoulder. This is a bicycle route. And I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy being on this for, it's hard to tell. It could be up to 10 miles. There is a point where it's kind of a little back and forth, but I cannot quite tell for sure. Passing the Cayuga County Fairgrounds, I've crossed quite a few county lines in the last few miles, the 13 miles that I've done. I must have been kind of at the corner of a bunch of them. But yeah, Cayuga County, we are solidly in central New York. So, and the Weedsport Speedway. Weedsport also has a performing arts center where in the summers we get concerts of note here. I saw my least favorite concert I've ever gone to. I went to it because a girlfriend at the time made me go. The Beach Boys in Chicago. No offense to you Beach Boys fans, but they were trash. Chicago was not much better. That was unenjoyable, and I have never been to a Weedsport show since. It's like it got ruined for me. I remember Def Leppard played there once, but I was unable to go. And it was probably good too. No offense to Def Leppard fans. I don't mind Def Leppard occasionally, limitedly. All right, going down a hill, so I'll spare you the downhill whiz of wind. More to come. From Jordan, New York, I am back on the main canalway path, going by a either building up or taking down county fair full of all those carny rides that I think are effing death traps. But I'm going to whisper that because the folks that are building them or taking them down are here, and I know they'll follow me. Weather's holding up. It's going to be a storm when it comes. So let's get some more miles in. Back on the canalway towpath. I may cut off and grab roads when possible, just for energy conservation, efficiency, speed, etc. But it's fine. It's just that, on a day like today, it's going to feel better that I have more miles past me once the rain starts. I think I just keep saying the same thing over and over again to you all. But you can tell what is on my mind. Overcast, starting to warm ever so slightly. I'm in a wool t-shirt and the rain pants. Rain pants are feeling a little swampy, as one would expect, but I think this was the right call to wear them. If I end up someplace to take a lunch before the rain starts, sure, then I made the wrong call, because I could have changed them, but I don't know. I'm good. I'm good with this. I'm good with the choice. All right. Probably will try to get to Camillus at least. That's the western suburb of Syracuse. Just really jam out some miles here. This is a very rural part of the trail in terms of services, so I have plenty of food, plenty of water. Totally full. I am good to go. Just outside of Camillus, and I don't know if you can pick it up on the microphone, but here come the rain. So I am under a tree that should give me enough coverage for a moment here to get my rain jacket on, which I suspect is going to be on for most of the rest of the day. Now, this does not seem to be the big burst, but it's heavy enough that I think I'd like to get this on. Oh, and now, of course, it's slowing down. The downside to this is, of course, this is going to trap in some more heat as I ride, but, what you going to do? I do think I may keep the phone out, as I mentioned. Test the waterproofing. Sorry for the bad noise there. Pit zips we will open up all the way. Kind of a mileage check. I'm about, let's see here, 24.2 miles. I got 47 to go. So this early rain scuttled a little bit of plans. The longer, heavier rain is going to be happening for a bit. I may even just check out the radar is suggesting this is only going to last, well, it's slowing down right now, but I do think, boy, the heavy rain's in Rochester, so it's coming. We shall be getting it probably within about 45 minutes to an hour. So I am going to go rain jacket, and that's just going to be how we roll. All right, trail conditions have been excellent, so I'm actually pretty pleased with all of that. May not have as many chapters, any entries into the tour journal when I get into the heavier rain, because it's just harder to do. Any place I can get some shelter, I'll be able to check in. Of course, I'll probably have fewer pictures as well. As just how it's going. I feel good. Being a little more than a third in, that feels pretty good. If I was feeling tired now, that would be a problem. I usually start to feel it somewhere in the halfway range. So I think my plan is, I'll be riding in the rain, of course. Maybe I'll take an extended break in Syracuse someplace where I can sit down and kind of relax for, an extended period of time. Plenty of time. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna energy manage, and I'm feeling pretty good about this 70 miles. So I think things are going pretty well here. Beautiful little garden here on the trail. This is a very pretty ride. It's along the ditch, the old canal, and very mosquito-y and whatnot, but overall just a really pleasant rural ride. Very reminiscent of the C&O in terms of trail condition, vibe. Recovers very well from the rain, which is excellent and very helpful for me this morning. So far better than expected, even with the rain coming in a touch early. And now, of course, the rain has stopped. So we'll ride with a jacket for a bit, and if it gets hot, I'll take it off. From Camillus, New York, at the Canal Park, which I met my cousin at last time I was here. So it's a good spot, and it has covered picnic tables. So I've decided that I'm about 30 miles in, not quite halfway, but I'm going to take an extended break and eat my other egg sandwich and just relax a little bit. I've hammered out these miles really well. The rain is on the way, and it's going to be pretty heavy at times, I think. So I think it'll be good for me to get a good rest in right now before I start tackling this a little bit more. A lot of the trail has been covered already, so that's really good. I'll be back on road for a little bit as we get closer to Syracuse. We go through Solvay first and then Syracuse. So yeah, I was sort of hoping that I could get to Syracuse before the rain, but that was not realistic given the distance and timing of it all. I suppose if I really hammered out the miles right now, I could probably get a little bit closer, but I don't think I'd make it. So this seems like a much better setup for me. And if the rain is particularly heavy when it starts, I can wait it out a little bit longer here because I am excellent on time. It is not even quite 11 a.m. at this point, and with only about 40 miles to go, you know, you figure roughly 1 hour for 10 miles. You know, I'm in pretty great shape. In terms of getting there at not just a reasonable hour, but at a time that allows me to get some laundry in and then maybe have a nice something to eat. And of course tonight is the Buffalo Bills game. And kickoff's at 7:20 or something like that. So it'd be nice to kind of be able to even just have a little bit of a rest before that. And I've got some interesting options should I make it there without a hitch, including going to the Turning Stone Casino, which has a big sports book there, so I could see it on an enormous screen. That would be if I've got energy. I may not. We'll just have to see. I'm not even halfway there yet. So, but I do have to say that as of right now, unless the rain really wrecks things, I think the likelihood of me making it there by bicycle the full way is pretty strong. I think it's just good to kind of like, you know, be mentally geared up for all of this, and you know, that just helps a lot. All right, much more to come here on the Hell Day, which has been anything but so far, but it's gearing up. Well, as always, I reserve the right to change my mind. And when I looked at the radar, I could tell that the rain that I was getting pinged about is light rain. And there is a big front of very heavy rain that is further away, as I said, in Rochester. And I rethought things. I would rather ride in a little bit of light rain now than wait out light rain and then be riding in heavy rain. So again, more miles before the heavy stuff starts, I think, is all the better. And I can take this break maybe someplace down the road. We'll see. All right, more to come. From between Camillus and Solvay, I am very glad that I made the choice that I did. No rain yet. It is imminent, but I am just about to get off the end of the crushed gravel trail, which is, I think, fantastic. I'm on pavement for a bunch of miles until I get to the east side of Syracuse in Manlius. So I've done the bulk of it, which means that when the rain comes, I'm going to be more on pavement than on trail, and that, I think, is going to pay dividends. And as I'm about to cross under 690, I-690, we are definitely in suburban Syracuse, although I already knew that, but it's one of the border interstates here in the city of Syracuse and the Syracuse area. So we are in fantastic shape. Nearly, I did not check the mileage, but we are nearly halfway to 70, which if I do my math correctly, that's 35 miles. And I feel pretty fresh. So good. All good. We are, let's see, I just want to make sure I'm on the right thing. Signage, more excellent signage here on the combined Erie Canal Towpath / Empire State Trail. Really fantastic. Oh, I take it back. We are back on some gravel for a little while, but we're nearly off of it. Once we're in Solvay in a very short period of time, it's going to be pavement all the way through Syracuse. So excellent. Now let's see how we can do dodging some rain and then figuring out what we want to do during the thunderstorm portion of our day, seeing if maybe I can get some shelter for that. From the outskirts of, I believe, Syracuse, we're getting there. I am running straight out of time. The big orange glob, and it is not Syracuse University, but it's the big orange glob of rain and thunderstorms is very much on the way. So I am now on the lookout for a place to camp out, figuratively, not literally, for a bit here to get out of this, because I think this is going to be no bueno, is my best guess. So we're getting close to a place that makes sense for me to find some shelter. So more to come. From Syracuse, New York, under I-81. Folks, I pushed it a little too far. I eschewed some spots to duck into on the edge of town. I eschewed some stops in the Armory Square section of Syracuse, thinking I can keep going and I will find the perfect place. And I knew better, but I still kept going. Is this you sometimes? It certainly is me. So here's where we're at right now. The rain got very, very heavy, and I thought I was rescued by yet another Dunkin' Donuts. However, the Dunkin' Donuts, when I got there in the middle of a very heavy downpour, was in fact a drive-through, an only drive-through Dunkin' Donuts. So while Google Maps was correct, it was a Dunkin' Donuts drive-through only. So for the last, say 20 minutes or so, I have been sitting underneath I-81, which you can probably hear over me, watching the rain come down, watching a little bit of thunder, and realized I was a little off route, and I maybe be able to get en route just by kind of walking the bike in and around the overpass here. I might get a little wet from time to time when I have to jut out because of some fencing and whatnot, which may actually be blocking me in, as I am now realizing, but we'll see. But if I can do that, then, interestingly, I might be able to kind of work my way back towards campus along I-81. Now, that may be a terrible idea, and as I see it, it looks like there's a lot of I think fencing may end up making this a bad idea overall, but I'm at least going to give it a shot to begin with. May as well, because I'm not going to ride in this. I've got plenty of time. Let me just check in with the time right now. It is 20 minutes of 1 o'clock p.m. I can't even check into my hotel until 3. That's no longer an issue. I would never get there by before 3, even if I started riding right now. But the thing I care about is getting to the hotel before sundown, so that's a thing. And the other thing that I care about is, obviously getting there comfortably and safely, not in that order. So I think at this point, I'm going to take the extended break that I was threatening to take, and I'm going to hope to find it in a place that is better than where I'm at right now. So I think that the short version, the easy version, would be wait this thing out at 2 to possibly 3 hours and then ride in, and it would be close to sundown at that point. The other would be to wait it out, assess, and see whether I need to call it and grab a ride, or do a combination of riding and cycling and catching a ride. That's another possibility. There's the other possibility of a fast forward using city buses, but then I'd have to unpack everything, put it into the duffel and all of that. That just doesn't feel quite as good at this point. So degree of difficulty climbed as we expected. The amount of rain is just too much to comfortably cycle through for the moment. And I think that we're at least going to be waiting some of this out, maybe finagling ways to stay dry and keep moving. I-81 will help me with that in a weird roundabout way. Okay, this became the hell day, suddenly. But, it's definitely type 2 fun. I'm actually really enjoying this, especially because the end is in sight. I feel like I'll be able to make it, and that's going to be really good. So that's the fun part that makes this part of the trip all good. Plus, it's nice to be back in Syracuse again. I'm a stone's throw from the campus, so I'll get a chance to see it for sure. So that's great. All right. See you in a drier state, hopefully.
Hey, it's Tim from the future. I'm interjecting in here, which I usually do not do as part of the tour journals, but that's because what followed was a whole lot of garbage audio, although I was able to clean it up a little bit. Here's what ended up happening. As I'll describe, I ended up getting to campus and all was good. But remember when I said, hey, I've got a water-resistant phone, but it might be hard to use? That became a really huge issue for the remainder of the day. Here's a tip. When you've got a capacitive touchscreen and it's wet, it's really, really hard to use when everything you have is wet. You have to have a dry screen to be able to move anything. That ended up becoming quite a problem. The other thing that happened, and I believe I do mention this in the upcoming semi-garbage audio, again, apologies for that, the phone got wet, is that the charging became a huge problem. I actually ended up getting a warning from the phone that there were problems. So word to the wise, when you have a water-resistant phone, like an iPhone 11 or above, it's more of a recommendation than anything else. So that became an issue for the remainder of the day. However, I was able to record one more entry on the trail that gives you a sense of how the remainder of this portion of the middle of the ride went. And then, of course, one that closed out the day. Okay, enough of me yammering from the future. Let's go back.
From near Green Lake State Park. Boy, can you hear me? I'm not sure if you can hear me. It's so wet. From Green Lake State Park with a very wet phone. This will be the one and only recording while I'm out wet. Who knows how the audio is, but I'm going to be going to the hotel tonight for sure. Everything has settled down. It was a heck of a storm. I did end up moving into the campus, had a wonderful time at Varsity Pizza and had a slice there. Pizza's not as good as I remember it, mainly because I usually had 8 or so beers before one. It is lightly raining, which makes my phone very wet, which makes it very difficult to access my phone, which can be difficult for routing, but I think I've got it all figured out. It'll be fine. The trail was difficult to pick up again. The east end of Syracuse is, I think the routing, if you go the proper route, it's probably fine. You go the route I did, and it's as difficult as it was 5 years ago or 6 years ago or whenever I last did this. So there's that. But the good news is I do think that the 70 is going to happen. This has been very Type 2 fun. I called it Hell Day. Not so much so far. Let's not get too cocky here. Got about 23 miles to go. And then we will dry out somehow, some way. All right, more to come.
Lord have mercy, 72.6 miles, and I am at the La Quinta, Verona, New York. Never have I been happier to be at a La Quinta. And by the way, it's a very nice La Quinta. I've been at some mediocre ones. This is a very nice one. And when I asked about my bike, I said, can I lock it up outside? They're like, well, there's not really a place. Would you like to take it up to your room? And I was like, I did not expect that. So the bike is in the room. And in fact, they gave me a different room with an enormous entryway so the bike can park there once I get it all stripped down. It also happens to be on the same floor as the guest laundry, which is fantastic. The only downside is because I am pretty cooked, the rain made the trail very soft, as you would expect. It was very much like the Gap, the surface. So excellent surface, but soft right after a rain. So, that took more energy than it would have had it been dry conditions. So, but I have to say, I'm really very happy that I was able to pull this off. It was definitely some Type 2 fun. The last 10 miles, I was just sort of like, yes, the difference between 60 miles and 70 miles. But 72.6, that's amongst the longest days I've ever done. I think my highest is like 77, give or take. I'm just very pleased with how this turned out. So the downside, because I'm so cooked, I am not going to go any place from here. I am going to go to order pizza, and the only place, sorry, it's so echoey here in this hallway. You notice my bike light was still on, my rear light. turning that off. The only place to get pizza from is Domino's, which is not my favorite. But I think I can probably order it from an app and not interact with any human beings and just have it delivered here. So that'll be just fine. That is the conclusion to, will I call it a hell day? Maybe a little bit. The rain was really hellacious coming down here in Syracuse, and it was tough sledding for a little while in there. But once I'm glad I left when I did, and just subjected myself to some late rain. If I had stayed any later, I would have gotten here much later. I got here right before 6:00 p.m. So it all ended up working out. I pushed myself. And I feel really good about all of that. Now, dealing with my clothing, dealing with food and all of those other sundry things, getting some ice. I actually have a beer that I bought yesterday that I never drank. So now I do have a beer. I have a beer to drink for the game, which is great. I'll just ice that down and oh man, what a day. And a very fun fourth day. And I look forward to tomorrow, next week for you. Maybe next week. I know we're mixing in some best ofs in there. So if I say next week and it's 2 weeks from now, you'll have to forgive me. A wonderful ride between here and one of my favorite campsites on the entire canal. I'm going to be camping at a lock in Fort Plain, New York. Very excited for that. But first, rest, relaxation, a cold beer, and probably a whole pizza. All right, everyone. Take care. More to come.
Statistics. Miles biked 72.8 as it turned out. Skunks 1. Skunk sprayings 0. My dudes yelled at oblivious operators of a motor vehicle 2. Jackass. Slices of pizza eaten at the Varsity go orange 2. Number of gas station napkins needed to dry my screen enough to use 4. Crossings of Erie Boulevard in the driving rain 1. That place is a death trap. Number of times I had to rely on 29-year-old memories of Syracuse geography because my phone was too wet to use 3 minimum. Labatt Blues carried 1. Labatt Blues consumed in a Quinta Inn while watching the Bills win. Go Bills 1. Flats 0. And as always, we like to close out the show with a special shout out to the Pedal Shift Society. Because of support from listeners like you, Pedal Shift is a weekly bicycle touring podcast with a global community, expanding into live shows and covering new tours. If you like what you hear, you can support the show for $5, $2, or even $1 a month. And there's one shot and annual options. If you're not into the small monthly thing, check it all out at pedalshift.net/society. On to the society. Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lean, Andrew McGregor, Michael Hart, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Marco Lowe, Terrence Manson, Harry Telgadas, Chris Barron, Mark Van Ram, Brad Hipwell, Mr. T, Nathan Poulton, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Cody Florchinger, Tom Beninati, Greg Braithwaite, Sandy Pizzio, Jeff Muster, Seth Pollock, Joseph Quinn, Drew Porter, Byron Patterson, Joaquin Robber, Ray Jackson, Jeff Fry, Kenny Mikey, Lisa Hart, John Denkler, Steve Henkel, Miguel Quinones, Alejandro Aviles Reyes, Keith Spangler, Greg Towner, Jody Zeranin, Lucas Barwick, Michael Baker, Brian Bechtal, Reinhard Biggle, Greg Middlemiss, Connie Moore, William Gothman, Brian Benton, Joan Churchill, Mike Bender, Rick Weinberg, Billy Crafton, Gary Matushak, Greg Latois Lopez, James Sloan, Jonathan Dillard, John Funk, Ronald Paroli, Dave Roll, Brian Hafner, Misha LeBlanc, Ari Messenger, David Grotke, Todd Grossbeck, Wally Estrella, Sue Reinert, John Lico, Stephen Granada, Philip Mueller, Robert Lackey, Dominic Carroll, Jackie McCullough, John Hickman, Carl Presseau, David Neves, Patty Louise, Terry Fitzgerald, Peter Steinmetz, Timothy Fitzpatrick, Michael Izuski, Hank O'Donnell, David Zanoni, David Weil, Matthew Sponsauer, Chad Reno, Spartan Dale, Carolyn Ferguson, Peggy Littlefield, Lauren Allensmith, Eric Burns, Thomas Pearl, Darren McKibben, Richard Stewart, Dave Fletcher, Jack Smith, Luke Parkinson, Ryan Patterson, Sarus Faravar, John Gardner, and Sam Scruggs. And thanks also to all past and anonymous folks for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedal Shift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedal Shift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.